Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of KnoxvilleDirtDigest.com. Mike Roberts broadcasting live from the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum. And we have the dude from Dover coming up next on KnoxvilleDirtDigest.com.
Tired of doing this? Get a can of this and spend more time doing this. Seafoam helps engines start easier, run smoother, and last longer. Seafoam. Seafoam! Help your engine run smoother and last longer with Seafoam motor treatment. Just pour it in. Seafoam works to clean your fuel system, clean your oil system, and stabilizes fuel up to 2 years. Make the proven choice. Seafoam motor treatment. Available everywhere automotive products are sold.
A true outlaw travels far and wide, kicking up dirt wherever he roams, never backing down from a fight. June 20th to 26th, more than $500,000 will be up for grabs as the Huset 50 and the Agco Jackson Nationals combine to find out who's got what it takes to become a legend, make history, and win the showdown with one driver able to bring home $180,000. Get your tickets today at HusetSpeedway.com.
Hey, and welcome back to KnoxvilleDirtDigest.com. As you can see on the old monitor, Danny the Dude Lasoski here, the dude from Dover. I don't care where you live in this world, you're going to be the dude from Dover the rest of your life.
I wouldn't have it any other way. You know, I live in Ocala, Florida, and love it down there with my wife, Debbie. But coming from the little town of Dover, Missouri, has priceless for me.
We'll talk about Dover after a bit, but let's talk about it right now. You and I have done several interviews, but I've never thrown you in what I call the Wayback Machine. Let's go way back to Danny Lasoski, born and raised.
Well, it starts way back. Born and raised in a town of Dover, Missouri. Population when I was there was 126. I just looked about a week ago, and it's 106 now, so it's decreased. I had to travel 11 miles one way to school to Lexington. There was no school. There was a one pump gas station, one general store, and that was it. And around there, everybody commuted. They either went to General Motors, which my dad retired from, or they went to the Army ammunition factory or another plant around that, or you were a farmer. That was it.
Right.
And that's what I did to have spending money to go around when I first started racing or doing anything. A farmer lived next door. I farmed and baled hay and did everything that young guys did back in the day. And that's how
that was the workout program back then.
That was workout. The farmers back where I'm from were rough. They tried to get as close to 90 to 100 pound bales because you had to lift them 3 times on the trailer and in the barn, and they laughed about it, but it made you tough.
Yep. That's the whole thing. I remember this in school. You get guys who were deadlifting 300, 400, 500, bench press and all that stuff. I'm like, you know what? Throw 90-pound bales,
there you go.
400 or 500 a day.
There you go.
Then talk to me. Talk to me. You build up strength and you build up stamina on that deal. Did you play sports?
I did. Wrestled, played football, both.
Yeah.
Yep, sure did.
Any good?
We were.
I know your competitiveness would say so.
And I know I'm not telling you my age, but in 1977, when I graduated from high school, 2A Missouri champions, Lexington, Missouri football champions.
You graduated at 7 years old though, so we'll help out that age a little bit. When did you first got in? I know your history too much, so I got to be careful I say this. When did you first realize you had the racing bug? You wanted to be in
racing, driving, or racing, working on it.
Working on it. You had to be doing
day
it.
Day one, because
your family did it.
My family, yeah. My Uncle Tom Corbin, my dad. They, back in the day, we didn't have vans. We had pickup trucks pulled with open trailers to Marshall, Missouri, which was our hometown.
Right.
And they would push. They'd put me when they had the old humps they'd put me down, and when I was little, and I'd ride on the hump, go to sleep, and drive to the racetrack. That's how I got there. And I can remember from day one, I was always in the way in the shop helping when they were working on a car. And a lot of you guys out there remember the Lincoln Buzzbox welder where you could plug it in. That's how I taught myself to weld. My dad said, "Here's some metal. You're in the way. Just here's some."
I've got one at the farm still.
70-18 rod. Get after it.
Yeah.
And that's how I taught myself to weld and taught myself to heli arc. I can do any kind of welding now because I was self-taught.
Right.
So that's how it all started. And my buddy Curtis Evans, I don't know if you remember Curtis, he's from down there.
Yep.
He started driving, and basically he started driving, and it was a family-owned car, and his grandpa gave him the money. Well, my dad was racing, and my Uncle Tom was racing, so if Curtis and I wanted to go racing, we went by ourselves. I drove the truck, and he drove the race car, slept all the way.
Right.
And that's how I really started on my own, thinking, I may want to try to drive one of these times. And that's how it started.
First car you were ever in?
Marshall, Missouri. 19 shit. I don't even know when it was.
Right.
And I won my very first race.
Whose car?
My own.
Okay.
Built my own. I sold everything I had to build my own car. And that's the very first race I ran. They had at the time there was nine rookies started that year, and they had a rookie race, and I won my very first race. Never driven anything in my life, not a go-kart, not anything.
Really?
Hopped right in it. Yep.
Got bit, became a winner right away.
Yeah, I thought, well, this is going to be easy.
Yeah. How'd that work out?
Yeah, not so good.
The war stories continue as
Yes.
far as that's concerned. How long did you race your own stuff?
On and off until my very first ride that I ever got was Mr. Derry in 1984.
22 car?
22 car. He's the one that gave me my break. You know, I was running my own car and had a bunch of help with Earl Rand, Arnie Summers, Keith Carroll, Missouri, putting motors in my car, but it was all local, like when Lakeside and I-70 were running. And it stayed there, and I was, just like any other, if you want to be a sprint car racer, eventually you got to come here.
Right.
And my dad said, there's no way I'm knocking the fence down. I'm hitting everything. But when you're under equipment, we'll call that,
Right.
you drive over your head. And I was doing everything I could do to keep up, and I was hitting a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got the break from Mr. Derry to let me drive that thing, that's when it all started clicking for us.
I remember when you showed up in 1984, and I always loved that car. For some reason, that car just pops on the track. It looks good in lights. It really did. We didn't have much light, and we had Musco back then, but it wasn't like it is now.
Yep.
I would love to see a retro car of that, by the way. Just that's a hint.
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
It's in here.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to look at it downstairs.
Yep.
All right. My question to you is, all of a sudden, you're in the 22 car. You're getting fast at Knoxville Raceway, which is a big deal. What do you think of Knoxville when you first pulled in a competitive car?
It's the holy grail.
Yeah.
Coming here like I was coming to Indianapolis 500. That's the way it was. Being a Missouri boy, and he always talked about, hey, if you ever wanted to be a race car driver, you had to go to Knoxville.
Right.
And Tom Corbin, which was my uncle, I'm going to talk a lot about him.
Yeah.
He was pretty good down there. Just didn't come up here a bunch, and nobody that I was affiliated with came here a bunch because no one had the equipment to, to compete. They thought.
Tom ran top 3 won nationals though.
Yep. He ran. I was here. I was his tire guy.
Yeah.
1980.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kinzer won.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was a daytime deal.
Yep.
Yep. Sure did. And just being that part and being how that is, I was doing anything I could do to get here, and luckily enough, all the chips fell into line.
How'd you meet up with Max Rogers?
Just racing here every week and him being around, and I don't know if he thought he seen something in me, and I know he was friends with Mr. Derry, and Mr. Derry was wanting to kind of back off of racing, and Max said, hey, if Mr. Derry's going to back off, you want to drive my car? I said, absolutely. And I started driving.
Had good stuff.
Really good.
Yeah.
And it just kept going better
For that
and better.
time period, he had probably the best stuff of the track for that particular time
Really
period.
going
I mean,
good.
top 3 for sure. You weren't making a career out of racing back then, though. How'd you supplement?
Well, when I first started, I was building combines at Alice Chalmers in Independence, Missouri, and I was midnight shifts, and I was welding up frames. Then I got a job building bullets at Lake City Army and Ammunition Plant, and had a really good thing going. When I was maintenance man there, and I got to be able to had a really good boss, and I would go in on Fridays at 7, and my regular shift was 7 to 3. Well, I needed to be off at noon, and I was very, very lucky to have a good boss that would let me work through all my lunch hours the rest of the week, and he would clock me out at 3, but I would leave at noon so I could go race. And sometimes I would not get back until 10 or 9 or 10 coming from Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
On Monday, and he would clock me in. But I'd never beat him out of hours. I still worked the whole lunch hours and do everything. But I did that for almost 5 years, and they switched from DuPont to Olin. Made it about a month, and then they said, "No, this is not quite going to work out the way you got your program." And I'm not one to give an ultimatum to. It really doesn't work out well.
I've heard.
It doesn't. It doesn't work out well. They gave me an ultimatum, and I said I'm out. I went in at 7, and by 10:30 I was retired and gone, and that's how it started racing for a living.
Thrown into it literally. It's feast or famine then.
I was I was doing both. I mean, it was tough, but I was doing both. And then I said, "This is going to be." And I called when I talked to Fort Buck. I said, "Man, we got to go because I'm doing this for a living now."
Yeah.
And that's how we started.
You guys were racing literally every race you could go to.
Everyone we could go to.
Yeah. You guys, I don't know what the numbers are. Of course, you're all-time feature winner here at Knoxville Raceway. I don't know what the numbers are with Forbrook out here. I'm sure we could research that and find out. You may even know that. But what I do know is those numbers don't just exist here. You guys won a lot of races everywhere you went.
Yeah, we were very fortunate. Didn't our deal with the Alcoa and our engines. And
What a great guy, by the way. We'll talk about Al in a second.
My God.
Yeah.
The godfather in our team.
Yeah.
You know, even though Forbrook and I would be at each other every now and then, he would kind of step in and hold us apart and say, boys, you go, you know,
Yeah.
like brothers that you're, I know you guys are, you're striving for the same thing, but you're acting like kids.
Right.
And our deal was, no matter where we went, we had to be back here for Saturday night because he wanted to sit up here on his perch and watch us and observe. And what more could you ask? You know, we could go anywhere as long as we could get back here for Saturday.
Yeah. And you did.
Yeah.
And you did. You jumped around to a lot of deals. You always try to better yourself by doing it. When I say better yourself, Guy Forbrook had the stuff. I mean, that you mentioned Al Cole, the sponsorships, everything. I mean, you guys had an outlaw team at a Midwest level, but you wanted to go outlaw racing. You wanted to be on the road all the time.
I just had that young mentality of being, I wanted to see how good we were.
Right.
I mean, I wanted to race the very best every single night.
Which you got to race them here about 6 times a year on Knoxville, between Houston's and that, probably maybe 10 times a year. And when you say the best, we're talking about that time, the three.
The three.
Swindell, Kinzer, Wolfgang.
Right.
And you ran competitively with those guys here.
But it was here.
But could you do it everywhere else?
That's what was the catch-22 in my mind. I wanted to know if I can compete, because I've always said my career is like a tape measure.
Right.
You string that tape measure. How long do I got here to fulfill whatever I wanted to do? And I wanted to race every single race I could, because I wasn't one of, at the end of my career, I didn't want to sit on the porch, you know, and say, well, boy, I sure wish I'd have went there or wanted done this. I wanted to try to do everything I could to just to see exactly how good I was or how good I could be. And I say I, it's not me, it's never I, it's us. You know, whatever team you're with, you're only as good as the people you're around anyway.
Sure.
And I wanted to compete. I wanted to compete with the very best every single night. And that was, and then I would venture out and I'd say, boy, the grass is not that green again. And we'd come back and forth. So
right.
That's how it was.
I remember one time you showed up here, I don't know who you were driving for now, I can't remember. You showed up here with a busted up shoulder. I think the crash was up actually in Wisconsin, wasn't it?
No, I broke my scapula. I was driving for Guy Forbrook it was the Saturday before the Knoxville Nationals.
Right.
Yeah, I was driving for Guy. It was Owatonna, Minnesota. Flipped
Yeah,
out of the
it was
place,
up
hit a
north.
bulldozer.
Yeah, hit a bulldozer. A bulldozer.
Parked out of County Fair, and we were leading the race.
Yeah.
And out of the place, hit it.
Bulldozers don't give, dude.
And I think that was, and I think Guy will agree, that was probably our best shot ever to
Win a
win
Nationals.
We were rolling that good. No matter who come to town, I think that was the same year that we beat Steve Kinzer on the last lap of an outlaw race here. I think that's the year. I mean, he could probably tell you more. Bob Jones, I know, could tell you.
Oh yeah, Bob's got it all.
But
there's track historians and then there's dude historians, and you got Bob Jones on your side.
He knows. So I call him off and say, Bob, did I do this or did I do that?
You've won the Nationals, however, without Forbrook. And we talk about those outlaw teams. Let's go back a little bit further though. Drove for Casey Luna. That car was a fast car. It was a good team. Kind of still in development stages with that whole program though when you drove it, right?
It was. It was the beginning of the Ford, and we, just like everything, you had to take your lumps, and
right.
They were wanting results immediately, and we just wasn't get it. And when, as you know, the easiest thing back in that day was changing those 4 bolts and getting that seat out of there. So
exactly.
That's what happened, and back and forth. So that's how it happened.
Dennis Roth.
My man Dennis, yes.
He's something. That guy has probably given more breaks to every driver around here I can think of.
Mark Ellis was crew chief for him, and Bob Jones would know the year, but whatever the year was, I mean, it was my last race. I was with Chris Black, and it was my last race, and I don't even know who was driving the '83, and I didn't know Mark that well. I knew him, but I didn't know him. He came up.
Define your last race, because that was a pivotal moment. That Chris Black thing was back then.
Yeah, that was the Nationals of whatever year it was. He couldn't race anymore. He had to go back to his job and work. Right. So working for a living, I was done.
Yep.
And it was Saturday night of the Knoxville Nationals after the races were over. Mm-hmm. He came to my motorhome over there and he says, "Hey, what are you doing the rest of the year?" I said, "Man, I don't got anything." He said, "Would you like to drive the '83 car?" He said, "Gonna see if we can get Jimmy Carr to come help us, and we're gonna finish the rest of the year out." He said, "I can guarantee the rest of the year." I said, "Well, Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no. So we left here in a non-outlaw race. We went to Fargo and won the next. I think it was the second night. First night I was in it, we won there. So then I got to go to California and meet Dennis Roth. I'd never met him yet, and I'll never forget. I walked in to his office, and that's when he still had the packing plant.
Right.
Walked in, shook his hand, and we kind of looked at each other and grinned. I said, "Well, look, I think I heard the stories about you, and I think you've heard the stories about me. We're both pretty bullheaded, so we got that in common. So let's just shake hands and say, if we ever got anything to say, we just go in front of the trailer, and whatever you have to say to me, say it, and whatever I have to say to you, say it." And from that point on, we have never, to this day, had a crossword. That's how much I respect this guy. He is a great human being. Great. I mean, he loves her. I always kid him. He has 3 things he cares about in life: family, cows, and racing. And I don't know which order they are.
Exactly right. Let's talk about Dana Lasoski and the straight shooter, if you will. Before the air, we went on air rather. We talked about what are we going to talk about, what are we not going to talk about, and you're an open book. You don't care what it is. Sometimes I'm not going to like to hear what you have to say, whether it be on the air or whether it be at the racetrack. Sometimes you're not going to like to hear what I have to say. The passion, and I'm not talking just Dan Lasoski, and dare I compare you and McCarl. You both have this passion for racing, and you're not going to mince words with nobody on how you feel. You get a little more clever sometimes than most in how you say things, but what is that? Because that's not something that you might be born with it, maybe, I don't know, but you're very passionate. I've seen it come out in George too, so it might be genetics.
It might be.
Yeah.
And to be utmost honest, it was probably taught by him because it was, as you know, Brown's way more polished than we are.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Brown has the same thing that we have because my dad taught us, he's all about being serious and winning.
Right.
Winning and everything. I'm very passionate, I'm a different person when I get to the racetrack than I am away from the racetrack.
Sure.
I've been told a million times, God, what a dick you are when you're at the racetrack. I can't even talk to you. I mean, I talked to you and you just looked away from me. Believe me, I don't mean any disrespect to anybody. But
Right.
when I came to the racetrack, I was there for one reason. It wasn't to go visit every team. It wasn't to lead my pit area. It was to win, and to try. And I'm saying try. My dad always had to say, you can't change the race. When the checker flag falls, you can't change. So there's no sense throwing a fit, throwing a helmet. Don't you ever go to someone else's trailer. Don't, and that stuck because I never went to anybody else's trailer because you can't change the outcome.
Right.
It's over.
Right.
You can't, so it's the best to go in the trailer, take 5 minutes, and then come out. And for me, it was the first kid that come up to you with that smile and want the autograph. You forget about everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, then I turn it to the Danny the Cupcake.
Right.
Oh my God, it's not so bad when you have someone come up like that. So that was my saving grace.
Who was the discipline in your family?
Oh, by far, my dad.
Yeah.
Oh,
Did he roll you?
I got the belt often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You probably had it coming.
I really don't think so.
I beg to differ.
He was. Yeah. He ruled with an iron fist.
Yeah, and you knew it. But
100%.
And again, maybe at that time, hey, I didn't have that coming. But looking back, in all honesty, let's be up front. You had them coming.
I know this is going to be hard for you guys to believe, but I wasn't an angel. I mean, I thought
not hard at all.
it was.
Yeah.
I got into some trouble, and I think my racing career saved me from a lot more trouble, to be honest with you. So because there was I had zero filter, and I was wide open no matter if I was playing football, wrestling, whatever I done.
You mentioned that you're a different person when you come to the track, and I'm that way too. I've got a little bit better at it. My first year here, my mom had only been to like 3 races in her lifetime. She just did like races. But my first year here, she came out here to watch her son announce. And back then, at the break, we went up in the grandstands, threw Frisbees and everything else. Yeah, I walked right by my mom and didn't even see her. She was standing right there just because I was in that zone. Buddy, let me tell you, I heard about it.
Didn't go over well, did it?
No. And the reason why I asked that, a couple years ago, we lost your mom. And I'll tell you what, your dad had the iron fist, but when that gal talked.
He listened to her.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
He did. They were married, was it 61 years? I think she passed, 61 years.
It was something. And I have one story of my own, but I've teased your dad before. I said, you wear the pants in the house, but she picked them out.
That's true.
And that's the way it was.
That's true.
That's the way it was. My story with her was I think I was with Roebuck's team back then. We were pretty close to each other, and it was getting pretty close to this time of year, almost in the July moment. And she had peaches.
Oh yeah.
And buddy, everybody's getting a peach, and she came over to me and she goes, "You need a peach?" And I said, "I don't eat peaches." And buddy, you could have swore that I stole out of her purse or something.
She didn't like that, huh?
And she goes, "What do you mean? I said, "I've had peaches up here. I said, I don't like them." She goes, "You've had Iowa peaches." She says, "You eat this." And it wasn't a here, take it. It was a you eat this.
Oh yeah, that's she took so much pride in making sure she took care of the people up here because we live. Literally right in the middle of a peach orchard where we live, and she enjoyed bringing all those up here because people really enjoy it. It's a different peach.
Sure,
from
it is.
Missouri from
I don't like any other peaches, so, and she brought me peaches after that. I've had you bring peaches since then. That's just the way it is. But that gal, I'll tell you what, and I made the trip when she passed away, and
yes, she did.
It was
much appreciated.
Well, it was have to because I didn't get to know her obviously like you did, but the respect I had for her. And the respect I have for your dad. Your dad's always treated me way better than I probably should have been treated sometimes because there was times I was upset with you. There's been times I've been upset with Brian back when I was crewing,
Yeah.
And we've crossed paths and butted heads before. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. I'm going to bring it up. I told you I would. You had an incident in your pit area, and you didn't go to anybody else's pit. It was in your pit area. And I had to come down there, and for some reason, you shoved me.
That I must have tripped because I don't.
Yeah.
I don't remember
that, and I understand. And I came over to the camper afterwards, asked you what you were thinking. But the bottom line was, I get it. I've been in that heat of the moment situation. Dare I say, where you lose your mind. You may know what you're doing, your passion for your job because it is a job. You were out a paycheck that night.
Very and what you're bringing up is a lot of people out there in the listening to us right now. You literally turns black.
Right.
You don't know what you say. You don't know. For me, I don't know. I get to that point. All bets are off. It's
right.
just it's like I turn to this other person that I don't like very well, and probably some of the things I say, probably some of the things I do, you're not very proud of when it's done, but I can't take it back.
Right.
So
I look at it as a paycheck. I really do because you may be sitting good financially one day or not sitting good way back when you're living literally dime to dime. But the bottom line is it's like somebody just got in your billfold and took all your money out that night and took it away from you.
It's exactly right.
You're
exactly right.
If someone would walk up to you and pick out your billfold and take all your money, I don't care if you're racing at Knoxville Raceway, I don't care if you're a 3M'er, I don't care if you're working on a farm. It's on.
That's how I was brought up.
Yeah. You plain just don't steal.
No.
And I brought up that incident. I won't bring up the one down south that we talked about, but it's the same thing. It costs you money.
Yes. Yes.
What's the difference? I'm going down the road with this thing for one reason only. What's the difference between the Dan Lasoski era of a racer and dare I say some of these kids that grew up on iRacing now jump in a race car and race these things like they're still iRacing? Because that drives me nuts.
It's just that that question's been asked me a lot.
Because they'll tear it up and not care.
They haven't ever had to work for it.
Right.
Never had to turn a tap. Never had to go out and bale hay.
Right.
Never had to go out and not eat that day.
Right.
And there's times where I'd rather buy a right retire than eat. It's just how it was because I knew that right retire was going to potentially make me some money. And they're just different generation. They've had it. It sounds bad, but they've had it way too easy.
Yeah.
They've never had to work for it. Never been in a shop hours on hours rebuilding because now you just think, God, it's going to sound bad, but just go, hey, Dad, I need to have this pot bought. Back in the day, sometimes you couldn't buy them. You had to make them. You had to literally go in and learn. That's how I learned to fabricate. That's how I learned to run a mill. That's how I run a lathe. That's how I learned to do everything myself.
Yeah.
Because I had to.
I busted on a Friday night, drove out to Lincoln, Nebraska overnight, got there that Saturday morning, met somebody at Speedy Bill's, picked up the piece that I needed, and drove back and raced that night.
There you go.
You don't have to do that anymore.
No.
There's no such thing. Or beg, borrow to your neighbor. Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things. And again, maybe I'm getting too old and I need to step back a little bit. I don't know, but
you know, you are kind of testy. Maybe you ought to think about that.
It's the walker that gave it away. Because, dare I say, I've mentioned this to you before, Dan Lasoski's retired, and you keep going, no, I'm not.
I never said I was retired, not one time.
Never?
Have you ever heard me say I was retired?
No.
Never.
Never.
I never said I was retired.
Right.
And there's been a lot of speculation. And one thing I do is you may not like what I say, but I don't lie. I tell you just how it is.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 cars built brand spanking new, ready to go right now. I am in the middle of a partnership deal. Sponsorship / partnership deal that was promised to me to get my engines completed. You know, Paul Kissler's doing my engines, and we're trying to come up with some different, not saying they're gray area because that's cheating, but I'm seasoned now and I need a little advantage. So we're doing everything we can do to get as much as we can. And when that happens, it prolongs. But it's still, at the end of the day, someone has to pay for that technology.
Right.
And that's where we're right in the middle of that right now. So if that sounds like I'm beating around the bush, that's kind of what I was doing.
You're messing around in technology when in an era that we're having trouble getting pistons.
That's without throwing anybody under the bus. You're exactly right.
It
That's
really
what I was
is.
trying to scoot around. Not getting.
Yeah. We're in an era right now where everybody is having trouble getting parts.
They're gold.
Yeah. So, and you and I don't have a dime to buy that gold right now.
No.
If and when Dan Lasoski retires someday, car owner Dan Lasoski, you tried the crew thing for a while, and no offense, you know cars, okay? I'll never ever bash you on your setups, okay? But watching you pace around, walking around, you suck as a crew chief, dude.
I just
you have no patience.
I have that passion.
Yeah.
I just think everybody should have the same mentality as I do about winning.
Right.
And it's not there. It's I'll get lapped into B, and it's like well, I'm not built that way.
Right.
I mean, I'm not.
Is there any talent if you had the lottery, you won the lottery, all right, and you're officially retired Dan Lasoski? Is there any talent out there right now, young talent that you tire?
Without mentioning names, yeah, there's 2.
Okay.
Two that I got my eye on.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're sticking around when you decide to retire someday.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's right now there's 2 that
I feel like I'm interviewing a politician right now. You know?
I'd love to work with. Yes.
Right.
That I think, because there's no different than you can name a bunch of guys right now. I think would myself and there's some other guys out there now that can bring to the table is that straightening the learning curve out that takes. There's certain techniques about, especially this place, to make car links up, and unless you've done it a couple times, you really don't know what deal. And I think I can really help some young guy.
I know somebody's going to jump my case for saying you suck as a crew chief, because you are a good crew chief. But the behind the scenes things that I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where I get to see inside the trailer, outside the trailer, down in turn 3. I see the pacing. I see the intensity. And no offense, you and I have known each other for a couple, 3 or 4 decades now, longer. We can talk to each other this way. You know, we're going to tell it like it is.
Mike, I take this serious.
Yeah.
I take being a crew chief as serious as I did driving.
Right.
You know, and I feel if I'm going to put 110%, I want my driver to put 120.
Mm-hmm.
That's just because when I bolt my butt in the seat, it's all on my shoulders.
Right.
I mean, I know that everybody that I've ever worked for has done their best. There's still 2 pedals, a steering wheel, a wing valve.
Right.
And you can't, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Ricky Warner. I don't care who you are. And I'm naming all the crew chiefs out there. You can't make them race cars perfect every lap.
Right.
That dirt change, everything. You still have to have a driver that's willing to move around and search and do the things that's necessary in today's racing to be successful. And that's just how it is.
There is not a perfect car out there that can survive 7 restarts. And we both have lived through those memories before of 7 different times.
Yes.
You know, the hunted or the hunter, or you've been there, you've done that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, my friend, I think I've beat on you long enough. I do appreciate you coming up.
I thank you very much for that. I think we should do this more often.
We should, except for one of us does not live in Iowa.
That's true.
You know?
Yeah, that's true. One of us is in sunny Ocala,
I'm
Florida.
getting down to Florida more often. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but I am getting down there more often.
What you need to do is come down. We have a every Thursday night, guys' night, Ernie Irvin's house, we play Texas Hold'em. There's about 10 or 12 of
I
us
can't
racers.
afford that night.
Hey, no, it's not. It's not. But we have. It's pretty good. We put $50 in, and
Yeah.
and there's just 10 or 12 of us racers down there. Really good guys. Dennis won a lot of races, because as you know, Florida's not a big sprint car country, but
Right.
there's a lot of good late model guys, and I've met some really good guys down there. And Ernie loves it. We go to his place and we play every Thursday. So you come there, it's an open invitation. You need to come and be a part of it. It's pretty cool.
One thing I forgot to bring up. How's your boy doing?
He's doing well.
Yeah,
He's
well,
doing real well.
We haven't talked about Landon.
He's not, my dad built him a car to
Right.
race, and it was sitting there completely ready, and it's 100% up to him if he wants to race. We're not pushing him. He's getting through the college thing, got it all done. Now he's getting his life going. So if he ever
Smart kid.
yeah, if he wants to race, it's there for him.
All right. Dude, get after it. Look forward to seeing you on the track again. All
Me
right.
too.
And look forward to having you back on the show again.
Hope that too. Thank you very much for having us.
That's going to wrap it up for this edition of Knoxville Dirt Digest. We'll see you next time.
Tired of doing this? Get a can of this and spend more time doing this. Seafoam helps engines start easier, run smoother, and last longer. Seafoam. Seafoam! Help your engine run smoother and last longer with Seafoam motor treatment. Just pour it in. Seafoam works to clean your fuel system, clean your oil system, and stabilizes fuel up to 2 years. Make the proven choice. Seafoam motor treatment. Available everywhere automotive products are sold.
A true outlaw travels far and wide, kicking up dirt wherever he roams, never backing down from a fight. June 20th to 26th, more than $500,000 will be up for grabs as the Huset's 50 and the Agco Jackson Nationals combine to find out who's got what it takes to become a legend, make history, and win the showdown with one driver able to bring home $180,000. Get your tickets today at HustonSpeedway.com.